This is Bruno from RVing TV. Today we're going to take a look at a 2015 Chevrolet Volt. Are you like most consumers? Thinking about maybe you want to buy an electric car, not sure what to buy. Should you buy new? Maybe the budget doesn't allow for new. What options do you have? I would take a look at this first gen Volt. 2015 had some really great features on it. The Volt had really evolved, and the Volt itself, especially the first gen car, was a little misunderstood. So let's start with that. This 2015 Volt is a full electric car. The advantage is that it has a range extender. Now, a lot of people when they ask me about it, I get this question look of, what's a range extender? So, easiest way to think about it, because we are RVing TV, if you're familiar with a motorhome and the generator it has on board, that's really what a range extender is. It's a generator. It's gas powered, so this 2015 Volt has a 17 kilowatt battery, and that will give you a range. GM quotes it as an average of 60 kilometers. And I can tell you, having driven this Volt several times, that you will see in right conditions, ideal conditions, you could actually get 80 to 100 kilometers range. Best I've been able to get is about 95 to 98 kilometers. One time just tipping that 100 kilometer mark, but on average could get up into those 90 kilometers. In extreme cold weather like we have here in Canada, and we see that temperature drop to minus 20 Celsius, because you're heating batteries, etc., you're going to get about 45 to 50 kilometers. Hence the 60 kilometer range. So let's take a look at some of the features. And we're doing this from a pre-owned status, because you can't buy these brand new anymore. It's a 2015. But if you're looking to save yourself a bit of money, be environmentally friendly, a pre-owned version of this could be a really great option for you. So this Volt is in the tricolor white. It's actually a pearl type of finish. Really, really nice. Up front, you have LED markers and halogen headlights. Very bright. Now the new Gen Volt is going to have LED headlights as well. We're running winter tires right now with aluminum rims, but you'll notice the paintwork. This Volt has actually had a window tint, so it really darkens it out, which is nice, because if you're carrying gear and you come look around the back here, you'll notice it's nice and dark. You're not going to have to worry about your gear. So it's a four-door car. Let's take a look at some storage. As we pop, it is a hatchback, and you'll notice that hatch opens up to reveal a very large and spacious storage area. You can flip the back seats down. On a Costco run, I've been able to get a full carton of paper, so that's 10 500 pack sheets of paper. That's a fairly good size box, and upwards of 8 water gallons, 15-liter water gallons in the back here without throwing the seats down. You throw those seats down and you can get tons of storage. Now, the Volt being electric can be charged one of several ways. We do have a regular 110 charger that comes with the car, and that you just plug into a household outlet. That's going to charge the car in about 10 and a half hours. Or you can go to a level 2 charger, which is ideally the way you want to do that. That's 220 volts, and it's going to charge this car between 4 and 4.5 hours to a full charge. Of course, when you drive, you're going to get some power if the range extender is running, and you're actually going to get some power when you regen and slow down. You'll notice the car in all its profiles are all about wind aerodynamics, cutting through the wind as efficient as possible. You can see the sharp edge at the back here to break the wind off the side of the car, not create drag, the way the mirrors have been set outwards to get the air around it. Let's take a look at some of the features inside this Volt. So when you first get in, you'll notice a nice large screen in front of you. And I'll close the door here in front. So nice large screen. We can actually turn on the vehicle itself. And we'll silence out the radio. So you can see a nice crisp, clean screen in front of you. Then you have your other screen here next to you. We have our radio. This Volt has premium equipment on it, so it has all the goodies which really make driving easy. We have our energy button, and this will allow you to take a look at what your energy usage is. You'll notice here lifetime usage for consumption is 2.7 liters per 100 kilometers. Now you have your power flow. This normally is going to show you whether power is coming out of the batteries, going into the batteries, if the engine is running and providing power to the motors. So again, this is a full electric car, and people seem to get confused with it, thinking it's more of a hybrid. So the electricity drives electric motors, which drive the main drivetrain. You have a range extender that when you run out of power, so there's no range anxiety, am I going to get to the next charging station? The range extender will kick in, and that'll provide power and burn a little bit of fuel in order to create electricity to drive those motors. In a real extreme case, whether you're looking to do extreme acceleration because you need to, or you're doing a high hill climb, GM engineered this setup with a planetary gear that if you really stomp on the pedal and it'll call for the range extender to kick in specific circumstances, and it couples to that planetary gear, giving more drive and a little more oomph and torque to the drive wheels, which is really smart the way it runs. Now, all of our buttons here are touch buttons, so you're not actually pushing, except for a couple of exceptions, right? Traditional button for our 4-ways. We have our lock and our unlock buttons here, our drive mode, which I'll show you in a minute, and our energy button. But everything else, whether I want climate, you just simply touch it, and it's all based on that response. So if I want navigation, I can pick navigation. Very easy to get around. Our home button. So I find it nice and easy. A few people have complained that they like the traditional style buttons. I really do enjoy this type of setup. And then, of course, we have our heated seats here, which is a nice feature. Of course, on our steering wheel, we have our traditional, Bluetooth connection with our hands-free. You can actually tell the car a number of commands, whether it's setting a destination into your navigation or whether you just want it to set a new radio channel. On this side, of course, we have our cruise control, and then here we have our buttons for our lane departure warning as well as our forward collision alert. So this has the forward-looking camera. What's also great, I'm going to set this camera in a little bit here and try to bring in that picture a little bit. We can toggle through a series of functions. This function here will show you how much battery power you're using, as well as recovering if you're letting off and using any regenerative braking. And on the right hand side, you'll notice the little symbol of the engine. When the generator kicks in, the range extender, it'll show you if it's revving up and how much power it's actually generating. Of course, we have a tutorial guide in here if you need something. We have whether we want to be set to metric or US. This is nice when you cross the border. You can just flip it over. Now everything's going to read in miles per hour and miles on the navigation. We have different messages that come up here. Of course, you do have tire temperature sensors. We do this on both our summer tires and our winter tires just to make sure that they're running at optimum level. You can see right now 90% remaining engine oil life. Now, this is the engine oil of that range extender. One thing you're going to find on a Volt, you're going to need to change this well before this comes up telling you you're at 0. Because that, if you're doing the regular runs and running on electricity, that range extender is really going to almost never run. And then, of course, we have our A and B for mileage. You can actually put navigation here, and then we can actually set our distances for our collision alert, right? Do we want it to warn us when we're really close? Do we want it off, or do we want more warning further ahead? So that's a nice little feature there as well. I like to drive in this mode when I'm using the vehicle because it's giving me a sense of how much electricity I'm burning, etc. Now, what's nice is we'll actually start up the car here so you can see a couple of other things. You'll notice on the left that there's an indicator for our battery power. Currently, there's only 5 kilometers of range left. On the right, you have a little circle with a leaf, and that'll actually go up or down based on, as you can see, accelerating and brake. It's a nice way, especially if you're new to an electric car. You know, a lot of times in a gas car, you stomp that pedal on when the light goes green and take off. What you're going to learn on an electric car, it's more about the finesse. You want to keep that green circle as much to the center, both when you're accelerating and as well as when you're braking. You're more efficient. What you're going to notice when you drive an electric car is that over time, you're going to actually adapt your skills because you want to, you know, really see how far you can push your range. And you're going to learn, you're going to drive your gas-powered car more effectively if you have a second family vehicle when you go out. And then when you slow down, you're also going to notice you're going to change how you slow down in your and you're going to coast. You know, so many times these days we see when you're in traffic, people are hitting the brake the minute they want to just slow down a little bit rather than letting off the throttle and coasting. That's much more efficient driving, to let off the throttle and coast. In the electric, you're going to gain more regenerative power back, charging the battery when you do that, and you're going to find you're going to be off the brakes. You're going to be on a car like this, you're going to be off your brakes a lot. So, you know, you actually have to make a focus effort to sometimes use them, keep those rotors nice, tidy, and clean. We can also see here, you know, our overall mileage, and then it's going to tell us our kilometers. You're going to notice even the fuel tank on purpose here is well below a quarter tank. We're starting to approach the empty mark, and yet it's reading 121 kilometers. And you're going to see those little passengers at the top, almost just off to the left-hand side of the center of the screen at the top. That's going to tell you if people are in your back seats, and if they're buckled up, it's going to let you know whether you're okay to travel. And then, of course, our compass right there in the center. When we come over again to that center stack, we have our climate controls that you can select. Of course, this has automatic climate, and you have an eco and a comfort mode, or just a fan only. Most of the time I'm running in eco mode. That's actually going to just cut the fan speed down. You can set your temperature, and in automatic, it's going to adjust whether it needs to blow through the vents, blow at your feet, combination of feet and windshield, or put the heat up on the windshield in the winter months. Nice big defroster, and of course you can start this car remotely, both with your key remote or with the My Chevy app. So what's nice, when I take this car and I need to use it, whether it's the summer or the winter, and it's plugged into a 240 volt charger, I'll usually precondition the car. And that's going to do several things. Most people hear preconditioning and they think heating inside. Well, in the winter, yes, it's going to defrost my windows, my windshield. It's going to defrost, turn on the defroster on the back window. It's going to put heat on the side mirrors. It's going to actually turn on the automatic seats and heat the seats. So when you get in, your seat's going to be nice and warm, and it's going to climate control the inside. But even more importantly than that, it's actually going to condition the batteries. It's going to warm up the batteries in the cold weather using the electricity that you're plugged in with, or in extreme cases, it's actually going to start the range extender and start that up. Now, let's take a little look at some features outside. So I'm going to actually pop the hood here because I want to explain some of the technology. When you look at the materials though, you're going to notice some really nice finishing on this Volt. This one has full leather seats, really comfortable headrest. You can see a good bolstering in here, so long driving you really feel fitted in there. Cup holders in the right location, good center console. We have rear seats. So this car, all first gen Volts are set up for 4 passengers. The center console can be removed if you have some big gear. There's a 12 volt plug in here, and this gen has been set up for iPod use. So we haven't seen the introduction yet of the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you can actually set your phone on Bluetooth and then use Siri or the Google Assistant to play the different music you want, etc., and do it all through Bluetooth. On the side here is our charging port, and of course it's the traditional standard so that you can plug in your 110 or your 220. Now you'll notice while I was talking earlier, close the door and it beeped. Of course, it has some nice features that you have a comfort access to get into the car. When you leave, it's going to automatically lock it for you. It's going to sense when you've walked away. If you've left the remote inside, it's going to beep as well. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to just pause the camera for a moment. We'll open up the hood and I'll bring you back to explain how this car actually works. All right, so now we've done that. We've opened up our hood here. Nice little feature as well. When this car locks, whether you've locked it with your remote or it's locked itself, if someone tries to open the doors, open the hood, unplug your charger, an alarm is going to go off, bringing attention to the car. Now, the Volt is a unique car. It's an electric car with a range extender. So here on the right-hand side is our Voltec system. Apologize, the car's a little dirty. We are shooting this in the winter months, so you do tend to get a little bit of dirt, etc. out here. Be very cautious when you're cleaning it. You want everything nice and cool. You can rinse it down, just don't soak it. So here's our Voltec system that runs our electrical side, and here is our range extender. Basically what you could call a generator or a mini engine. So just like a regular gas engine, we have an air filter. You can check your oil level, add any oil if you need it. But you're going to find really you're not going to need that. Really smooth running engine, very, very quiet itself. The really unique thing is you're going to notice 3 tanks here with antifreeze in it. And the reason there's 3 tanks is GM has developed this car that one of the tanks is actually for cooling your electric motors. One of the tanks is for cooling or heating your batteries. And then this tank over here is actually for cooling your range extender or your generator. So you actually have 3 cooling systems on this car. Some complaints you'll hear out there, now that electric cars have been around for a few years, some people are reporting that their batteries have lost some of the range. Not on the Volts, on a number of other cars. The reason for that is there's a number of manufacturers that the batteries are air cooled. And I don't know if you've ever taken, any kind of battery operated item, run it, whether it's one of those little handheld fans, whether it's a flashlight, turn it on, run it for a while, especially if it has a speed on it, turn it up. Turn it off, take the batteries out right away. And what are you going to notice? Those batteries are hot. Well, that's no different on an electrical car. On an electric car, you're going to press that accelerator. It's going to ask for juice to come out of the batteries, voltage to come out of the batteries to the engine, to the motors. And what's going to happen? Those batteries are going to get hot. Well, if you're driving down the road, that's fine. You've got airflow coming underneath and it's cooling it. But if you stop and you park that car for a while, it's going to be harder to dissipate that heat. Also, when you plug it in, when you charge a battery, don't know if you've ever noticed this on rechargeable batteries. Charge the batteries. You'll notice this on the battery packs for some of your lawn equipment. Put it in the charger, charge it up. When it's finished charging, if you pull it off the charger right away, the battery's warm. Well, when you're charging it, you're pumping voltage and amperage into a battery, it's going to make it hot. That heat actually kills the life of the battery over time. This is why GM has engineered these cooling systems. So in the really hot weather in the summer, that coolant is going to circulate around your battery pack, taking excess heat out of it, helping keep it cool, the way you run coolant through your regular engine of a car. What's also really interesting is if you ever listen to these cars when they're plugged in, you're going to hear in the summer months when it's really warm out, you're going to hear your car actually cooling itself. It's running that coolant and a fan and cycling that around the batteries to keep them at proper temperature. In the winter, it's going to run that coolant, but it's going to warm it up to keep the batteries at the proper temperature so you get the maximum amount of range. Really, really smart car. And this is why, if you read a number of the forums, talk to Volt owners, you're going to get reports that they're not seeing their range shorten or dissipate. They get longer life out of their batteries. And part of that is the cooling. The other part is that this car comes with a 17 kilowatt hour battery pack. You will never use 100% of that battery pack. GM has engineered it that way. You're going to be able to use somewhere between 10.5 and 11.5 kilowatt hours. You'll never get to 17. The car won't allow it. That again saves the battery life when you go to charge it, because you're not completely depleting it and possibly parking it somewhere almost completely empty. It's always going to have residual charge. That's also a nice backup, because if you're driving down the road, ran out of charge, didn't pay attention to the fuel, run your fuel empty, it will then put this car into limp mode, using that last bit of electrical to get you to a safe location, which hopefully is a charger or a gas station. So they've built a backup on a backup. I mean, that's just absolutely smart. If you take the time to read on this car, you'll notice the technology is great. In behind our front fascia here, we have some openings for air to get in and cool, and there's actually active dampeners in there. So when you're running down the road, it doesn't need that air to cool any of the components. It'll close, giving you better aerodynamics. You'll look at the fit and finish, and the tightness in the seals are all really tight. That again is for aerodynamics. And what we'll do, because sometimes I do get asked this, let's start the range extender, and that way you can actually hear the kind of noise that it's going to make, and then A little later on in this video, we'll actually take it out for a test drive. Now, right away you noticed it started with the range extender. And I'm gonna close the door here for a moment. You'll notice it tells me right away my hood is open. And it's fairly quiet, especially with the hood up. Now, the reason it started that range extender, even though we have 5 kilometers electrical range, and there's the car telling us we've left it running and we've walked away from the car. The reason it started that range extender is our hood is up. Because an electric car is so silent, GM has engineered it that the minute the car is on and you pop that hood up, it's going to start the range extender to tell you the car is running. And that's why we have our range extender running. I don't think I've actually done this experiment before. What I'm going to do is take the camera here. We're going to drop that down, and let's close the hood and see if it turns itself off. And there we go. How smart is that for a smart car? You'll hear the little hum now. So you can hear that hum, but it's very faint. And if we were outside with ambient noise, you won't hear that. And that's why they've said it. The minute you pop that hood open, even if you've missed the lights and the parking lights, the minute you pop that hood open, that range extender is going to turn on as a safety to tell you that the car is running. And as you can see, we're fully running. And then if we want to turn the car off, it actually gives you I want to say vocal cues, but audible cues telling you that the car is shutting down. And of course, you can walk away. It's going to leave lights on. It can be set. It'll leave the lights on. There's our honk telling us that the doors have been locked. And then in a few moments, the lights will go off. Well, so much for our exterior walk around. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them below. And if you have questions, I'll keep an eye out and answer some of those questions for you. We'll also, at a later time, take a look at a 2nd gen Volt to give you some differences. But for now, we're going to pause the video for a moment, and then we'll go out for a test drive. So this is Bruno from RVing TV. I'd like to say thank you for viewing our video. If you like the video, please click the like button. We'd love to have you as a subscriber to our channel, and you'll be notified of new videos as they come available. We do have some car reviews planned in the very near future with some really nice vehicles, some high-end luxury cars. So we can notify you of that. And again, if you like the video, please click the like button. So thank you for viewing our video on the 2015 Chevrolet Volt. If you're in the market for a pre-owned unit, take a look at one of these Volts. You'll be very happy with its performance and its longevity. This is Bruno from RVing TV.